it's not always about how much you can earn. It's about how much you can keep. Welcome, everyone, to episode 8 of BarterScoop Insider Circle, and we are excited to be here today. Forgive us for taking the time out for taking so long to get back with you with this episode. We've been doing a lot of things behind the scenes, and we really hope that it's going to pay off for 2019. Happy New Year to everyone that's listening, and we hope you're going to have a very prosperous and adventurous 2019. Before we get started, I want to stress just going back to the beginning. If you're starting from right here, go back to the beginning. Do yourself some justice. Start from the beginning. Work your way up to where we're at right now, because we're hoping to build some foundation. Sometimes we will go off and talk about random things that are hopefully relevant. But at the same time, if you have that good foundation, you'll kind of always know where we're at any given point in time. We went over things like the possibilities and the things that, different strategies that you can employ using bartering, some insight from some pretty expert traders, and we've got a bunch lined up for you this year. So we're real excited, and you should be excited as well. Make sure, if you're not already, I know most of you probably are, but if you're not, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and any of those sorts of places. So that will be super, super helpful for us and for you. We're going to be doing a Barter Classified section where you'll be able to list some of the things that you have. If it's in a trade network, that's fine. Just put the trade network that you need to receive your currency from, or you can just list things that you're looking to direct trade. That'll be just on the Facebook page. And like I said, if you belong to iTex, IMS, iTrade, Barter Card, any network, you can just list that, hey, that's what I'm expecting to be paid. That's the currency that I'm expecting to be paid in. So hopefully that'll be cool, and it'll help you to generate trade in the different networks that you may belong in. If you don't belong to a network, it'll give you an opportunity to be able to trade your items with real people, not spammers. We're going to do a very, very good job of weeding out the spam so that, and people who may be harassing people and don't have real things to trade. So hopefully that is helpful. And any of you big traders out there, we've been getting a lot of comments and emails from people who have some bigger deals. Let us know what you're looking for. Send us an email or hit the contact form on our website, or you can message us on Facebook. Just let us know what you're looking for, what you got, and what you're looking to do, and we'll see if there's any way that we can be of assistance to help you out. So with all of that out of the way now, today's show is bartering for poor people. Now, I know some of you might have seen the video that we did as bartering for poor people or read the article. So today, we're just going to just shine a little bit more light on that subject, and then we'll move off of it, because after today, I want to make sure that nobody leaves here thinking that bartering is just something that can only be used for poor people. And in fact, I want you to see actually the opposite, that it's actually a wealth multiplier. It's something that is used by the wealthy because, as the old mantra goes, money saved is money earned. So the more that you can use what you already have to get what you want, you're accomplishing the same thing, but it'll be far easier to use things that you might already have: downtime, excess capacity, overstocks, you name it, stuff in the garage, to be able to, wouldn't it be pretty cool if you could just go empty out your garage and transfer it into a car, perhaps? I don't know what you have in your garage, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people have a bunch of stuff just sitting around that they don't use anymore that someone else would love to have. We don't want to be too big on one man's junk as the next man's treasure, but it's just the truth. It really is just the truth. So, is bartering for poor people? Yes and no. bartering is for everybody. You have this stigma where people sit back and they think that the only people that are actually bartering often are poor people. And bartering can be a great way for someone who is having unfortunate economic hard times or in a financial situation to be able to get out of it. So, I'd have to say kudos to someone who is making use of something that they have in order to be able to better their situation. But it's just not something that's only for poor people. So the mind tends to wander off to images that we might have seen on television or growing up of, people in third world countries wanting to haggle or trade you this for that, or chickens for goats, or I'll trade you my Mickey Mantle baseball card for your Hank Aaron, or whatever the case may be. So this idea that the only times that we think about somebody effectively bartering is done by people who are in situations that may be different from us. See, really, what's happened is cash has just become so easy for people to obtain. Credit. So when you go somewhere and you're looking to, purchase something, or you're wanting to buy that car, or you buy the clothes, or whatever it is you're looking to purchase, it's easier to just whip out the credit card, hand it to them, and say, here you go. Whereas bartering sometimes can require a little bit of thought and effort. You can't just go up to someone and say, oh, I love your car, take my boat for it. Can that happen? Yeah, it can happen. But the reality is that that individual would have to be just as interested in your boat as you are in their car. And that's the part that makes it a little bit difficult. So when it comes time to us thinking about using bartering in everyday situations, it's more of you got to think about it, which requires a little bit more time and effort sometimes. And that is what makes it easier to just swipe the debit card, pay cash, or whatever the easiest way to make that exchange happen. We lean towards that. And that is one of the reasons why it's something that's on the back burner, and you just always envision it as something that someone who's less fortunate is doing. When you think about bartering, you don't think about, oh, I'm going to trade for this 300,000 square foot commercial building. That's not the first thing that pops into your mind. Now, if you're familiar with 1031 exchanges, which I'm not an accountant, I'm not offering any legal advice or anything like that, but if you think about a 1031 exchange, it's really kind of a barter deal. And there's obviously some other things that you have to take into consideration with that. But if you're not familiar with those, then you're not really thinking about bartering for real estate or land or investment in a business. You're not thinking along the lines of that way. You're not thinking along those lines. You're more so thinking about this for that. And, today we're going to touch on why you shouldn't look at it just that way exclusively, because you can get commercial buildings, you can get cars, you can get boats, lands, and invest in businesses. You can do pretty much anything that you can do with cash or credit, except pay your taxes right now. And the overall benefit of bartering is tenfold, because you're using something that you already have. Whereas in most situations, now if you're strapped with, if you're strapped full of cash, then, obviously, then you already have that as well. But even in those situations, so if you can keep more of the wealth and earnings that you've amassed, why not? It'll make your reaching your goals a whole lot easier, because you're not, if you make $100,000 or $1 million or whatever that number is for you, and you go from spending 80% of it a year to 70%, even just that 10% adjustment can be incredible in 10 years. So not to overcomplicate it right now, but you have to think about bartering from the standpoint. Let's give an example. In the video, we talked about the 96 Olympics, and actually it's been at all of the Olympics since the 96 Olympics where they've used bartering as a portion of the way that they've financed it. When they're putting these deals together, I mean, we're talking about rental cars, hotel accommodations, parking, signs, uniforms, advertisement, a host of things that are going into those particular trades. Millions and millions, and in some cases, billions of dollars that are going into structuring these deals. But the key thing is, they're starting out with an idea of what they need, and then they go to what they have. Now, as simple as that may sound, it's the one thing that makes bartering less useful for most people, is because they don't have an idea of what they need or what they have. Or they have an idea of what they need and have, but they don't know how to put it into the most likely situation that they could be able to trade for something that they wanted. Now, when you have these things, it becomes a whole lot easier to do. So, for example, in the Olympic situation, if they knew that they needed parking and they knew that they were going to need rental cars, food, and a host of other things that they were going to need, that they would have to shell out cash for, then they just started looking at, okay, well, what do we have? And what do we have that individuals who have what we want would need? And when they started looking at that and they started seeing like, okay, people would like to use the Olympic logo in their advertisement. They would like to have signs and commercials and a host of other things that were being utilized during the Olympics. They would like to use those things. Well, all of those things have a monetary value because, obviously the Olympic committees and the people who put those sorts of plans together are going to charge for those things. So if these businesses need that stuff, and the Olympics need what they have, then you have a match made in heaven. And it makes it a whole lot easier for these companies to be able to do that. They're both using something that they already have. If you're a rental car company and 30% of your inventory is sitting on the lot at any given time, and the Olympics come to you and says, hey, we'll let you use our Olympic logo in the advertisement. We'll give you placement in all of our handouts and whatever else they were able to agree on. It becomes a no-brainer. They get advertisement that they typically would have to pay for in cash, and the Olympics are getting something that they would have to pay for in terms of rental cars and whatnot. So on that level, it was a lot bigger than just mine for yours. But it took a little bit of planning, a little bit of thought, primarily knowing what you wanted and knowing what you had. And that is what's going to take it away from, is this something that's for poor people? If you're in a situation-based need, for instance, you need something to eat today, and you're willing to clean the windows for that food, then that is an exchange, and that's one way. But that was a situation-based need. You got hungry and you were willing to do something in exchange for food. But let's just say, for instance, this year you wanted to get your home remodeled, then it would take a lot more planning. You would know the materials and supplies you needed, the vendors that you might want to use in order to get that work done. So you would look at it a whole lot different than you would the situation-based need. Now, both of them are situations. I guess I should say urgent situation-based need, because, needing food today can be urgent. So if you look at it from a third world country's perspective, let's just say you're looking on the news and you see people in the markets and they're trading tomatoes for baskets and, all sorts of things. That mindset can trickle over into how you think that it's actually occurring over here. You have businesses and individuals in the U.S., North America, all around the world, who've bartered for commercial real estate, who's bartered for land, cars, automobiles, advertisements, you name it, a variety of things. And it all really started the same way the Olympic Committee started their venture. You got to know what you want, and you got to know what you have. And if you look at it from your own perspective, how do you view bartering right now? Do you view it as something that is, it's something that, I'll do it when I think about it, or, the guy came in to fix my refrigerator last week, and, he just said that him and his wife were planning a catering event, and it made sense. So I asked him, would he want to trade out his repair services for the catering event? And then it worked. And then it doesn't happen again for you for maybe 6 months or a year before you knowingly utilize it again. And this is really what we're aiming at right now. We want to get you to a point where it's not something that you're just saying, okay, I'm going to do this, every once in a while. Make it a core part of your business and professional strategy. With your household, you might need babysitting, you might need pressure washing at your house, a lot of things, and you're going to pay cash for it. You have to remember that bartering is just a means of exchange, just like cash, just like credit. It just requires a little bit more creativity and thought. So let's just take that for example. Let's say you had a $4,000 termite job that you needed, and that might be expensive. Well, it depends on the size of your house. So let's just say you needed a $4,000 termite job, and you were making, for simple math, you were making $10 an hour. You would have to work 400 hours, 400 untaxed hours, probably closer to 500 hours, but let's just say 400 hours to earn $4,000. Now, if you had an old boat on the side of your house that you weren't using, and you had it listed in Craigslist or whatever the case may be for $4,000, and you've had it for 10 years, you've had your good times out of it, and you were just ready to let it go, and you were looking to sell it for that boat job, well, it might be a whole lot easier for you to trade that boat for the termite job and just get right to what you want. Earlier on, we used to say that if you had a room full of cash, would you be excited? And for most people, the answer is they'd say yes until they realize the magnitude of the question, right? Because the reality is that you really wouldn't get excited until you started spending it to get things that you actually wanted. So in the example of the termite job, if you were to trade your boat for that termite job, then you had what you wanted. Now you use something that you had that was sitting out there. In the case of, you use something that you already had that was sitting out there and turned it into a termite job. So you're looking at 400 hours, or the boat that's been sitting on the side of the house for the last year and a half that your wife or husband has been telling you, hey, we need to get rid of this. And you had your good times out of it. It's already served its purpose, and now you're letting it go for something that you need right now. The profit and the value of doing something like that far exceeds spending 400 hours of your life. In another situation, if you're a dentist or a doctor, chiropractor, somebody who offers a time-based service, like an hour massage. If you notice that every Wednesday you have 4 or 5 hours that you're unbooked, and you book 4 or 5 hours every Wednesday in exchange for, if they're $100 an hour, you book 40 hours of unused time on your Wednesdays for that termite job. This is time that was previously not even being used. You would have had to take that $4,000 out of the hours that you actually had to work to generate revenues to pay that termite job. So now you're using unbooked time to trade for the termite job. And in barter exchanges in North America and in places where they exist, it could make it really easy to be able to do that, because you may be able to take $100 script. Script is another word for like gift certificate or a gift card. And you could take that script or gift certificates and sell them inside of the barter exchange and all of those 40 people that you sell them to, they're not going to, most likely, it's highly unlikely that they're going to all show up at your doorsteps at the same time. They're going to be spread out. So you're pretty much using unused time to finance your own termite job, time that wasn't booked previously. Now, would you rather take 40 hours that were booked, generate the $4,000, and write the check for the $4,000, swapping hours for dollars? Or would you rather sell 40 $100 gift certificates that are going to be redeemed over a period of time to pay for that termite job? I think the answer is obviously. So it's just a whole nother way of looking at things. It's not something that you just sit around and just say, okay, I wonder how I barter. You got to start with a plan, and that's the most important thing. You know, you have countries that barter for weapons and for oil for wheat for land, businesses that'll move to another location for certain incentives that are traded to them. It's done on a big level. You have big businesses and governments that are trading with each other. The thing is, they have usually teams of people that help them put these sorts of deals together, where you may feel like, well, it's just me and it just takes too much time to put into thinking about how I can put a trade deal together. Well, that's where barter exchanges really could come in, because you have a broker, and the broker, you could tell the broker, like, hey, this is what I'm looking to do, and this is what I'm hoping to accomplish. And now you have someone whose job it is to help you to accomplish that, give you ideas and strategies on how you can be able to put the deals that you need together within the trade exchange in order to generate the revenues that you need in order to accomplish what you want. So don't look at bartering as it's something for poor people. And when I had a friend of mine, Randy Lee, he was telling me that, you know, he's just never really thought that bartering could be for poor people when he saw the title of the video, because he just uses it all the time. And that's where we would like to see everyone listening to this show, is that it's just something that you use all the time. It's just like anytime that, you know, think barter first, cash last. And if you're thinking like that, then you'll automatically start that creative process to say, hey, would you accept anything other than cash for that? And that's a thought-provoking question. And when someone hears that, what do you got in mind? Well, if you belong to a trade exchange, you might have a whole lot of things that you could offer them. If you don't, then there's other creative ways, and we've got articles and things on our website, BarterScoop.com, where you can find those sorts of ideas on how other businesses and people out there all around the world are using trade in their everyday lives to make it something that's more not something that's just secondhand or flea market, or, you know, but something that really has a value in your mind, because that's where it really starts with this, is a mindset. And, you know, as I said earlier, bartering is an incredible wealth multiplier. It also can be a way that you can get business that you wouldn't have otherwise have ever got. And from a business perspective, that could be incredible, because, you know, let's use a landscaper or a house painter. Let's say they traded to do my house. They painted my house and we bartered for that. Well, everybody in the neighborhood doesn't know that. What they do know is whether you did a good job or not based on the surface. Same thing for a hair designer or anybody else that does something that people have to actually see. If I see that the work looks good, I could care less how you were able to accomplish it. I don't know. I may not know anything about barter. I may have never have listened to an episode of BarterScoop Insider Circle. Shame on you if you haven't. But if they've never heard anything about barter, then they're going to be looking to spend cash with you, because they see your end result. So barter is a great way to get business that you would have never have ever received in the first place. So is bartering for poor people? Yes, it is. But it's also for wealthy people and everybody in between, because it's something that you can take what you have to be able to get what you want. Now, there may be a few steps in the way, but there's going to be 40 hours or 400 hours in the case that we used earlier about working per hour to generate the revenue that you need in order to be able to get something that you want. There could be 40 hours or 400 hours worth of steps in the way by working by the hour to generate the money that you need to buy something that you want. So if you had to put something together and it was, you had to spend a total of, let's just say, 5 hours between emails and phone calls and everything to be able to putting ads up online to put something together, then you're talking about 5 hours plus something that's just sitting there, or time that hasn't been booked, or inventory that just hasn't been able to sell, and you're considering liquidating it for pennies on the dollar. Now you spent this 5 hours to generate something that's going to give you something that you want. In the example earlier, the termite job for $4,000. So you have to look at it that way as well. Would I be willing to think for 5 hours? Or is it easier for me to work 40 hours or 400 hours, depending on how much you make? Hopefully that all made sense, as opposed to using something that you already have, because really you got to look at the value of your time at the end of the day. If I spend 5 hours putting a $4,000 termite deal together, I would do that all day, especially if it was something that if I was trading something that I was hardly using or never would use again, that was just sitting around, or if I had a product or service that wasn't able to sell, or this day just nobody just comes in on Thursday for whatever reason. It could be my marketing efforts, whatever the reason is, nobody's here on Thursday, and I still have to have this $4,000 termite job. If I could use my Thursday to pay for it, I'm going to do that all day, even if I had to use 7 or 8 Thursdays. But now I got another person that can go out there and be a testimonial for me if I do an awesome job, which I'm sure that everyone listening does an awesome job. At least I hope. So don't look at bartering as something that's used by third world. Look at bartering as something that you need to be using. You need to be thinking about, how can I get a barter plan together? And how can I make it to where my life plan, I want land, I want a house, I want, whatever your specific needs are for you, how can I make those align with the things that I'm looking to accomplish in my life? How can I make my barter and my trades in line with the things that I would hope to accomplish in life? What if a guy or a lady came into your shop and said, hey, we're having a wedding and we got 50 people that are going to need their hair done, and at $50 a pop, that's $2,500. And then you start talking to them, and then you learn while you're talking to them that they have a car worth $4,000, and you just say, hey, would you be willing to trade the car for all, having your stylist hair done and everything? And then they say in a nanosecond, I'd be willing to do that, even though they had it listed for $4,000. And the reason why is because sometimes it's easier to just trade something you already have than go write a check. And that's kind of what we've been talking about. I'd rather give up that car, because I was going to probably take less for it anyway, and not have to go take $2,500 out the bank or put it on my credit card. So I think we all get the point. Bartering is not something that's for poor people. It is for you.